Welcome back to the Journey Podcast. I'm your co-host, Emma Jackson.
And I'm Jose. I might be slightly hungry.
And we are joined once again by the lovely Andrew Lamb of 4 Leaf Performance.
Howdy.
So
Welcome
Andrew
back.
actually has a great track record of working with HP over 25 years before he retired. And the last position he held was the head of transformation.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about that. What is the head of transformation? What did you do?
So the role was literally looking in different parts of the businesses to see where we could change, right? So transformation is about change, right? Where do we want to go from and where do we want to go to? So some of the roles that we were looking at was around quality. How are we doing quality processes and systems within the print business? Then we started looking at AI and ML within customer service. So that's one of the last ones that I was working on was around AI and ML.
What is ML?
Machine learning.
Okay. Yep.
So,
there we go.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that job has to be so hard because HP is such a huge company that does printers, computers, headphones. They do
Hardware
everything.
and software, right?
Yeah.
Massive. Yes,
Yeah.
It was huge. Yes.
Was that on the global scale?
Global.
So
Yes.
what does transformation have and innovation? Are those similar sorts of roles?
It kind of intersect, right? So it depends what you're trying to get to. Again, it's, are we transforming the business for reducing cost? Are we transforming the business to bring new innovation in? Are we transforming the business with regards to organizational design? So transformation covers everything, right? Innovation is more around how do we innovate in a business? And again, there's different facets of innovation, right? So there's product innovation, there's market innovation, there's team innovation, solution innovation. There's all sorts of different innovations out there.
So in part 1, which if you haven't seen it, you guys need to go check it out. We talked a lot about what the challenges you see most businesses face, and then the systems and operations that can help you get to that next level.
Right.
But I really feel like transformation is the key to scaling in continuing a growth pattern.
Right.
My question is, when you see a successful company, how do they continue to innovate? How do they continue to stay on the cutting edge? Something like Apple, for example, that you've already hit some success, but a lot of businesses plateau.
Well, it's Apple's DNA. I mean, they're a company that was built on challenge, right? So Steve Jobs is a challenger. He believed in challenging the status quo. So it was built into their DNA to challenge the environment, to challenge the market. Again, it goes back to who do you have in the team, right? What is the culture of the business? Is the culture of the business to challenge the status quo? Is the culture of the business to be, well, we're going to stay within the status quo, right? But what's the culture of the business? And culture is a living, breathing thing. So if you want to innovate, is innovation part of your culture?
Do you think that it's culture or systems that plays a bigger role in innovation?
Yes.
It's a both.
I would actually say it's culture.
Ooh.
Can
We took a poll before this, and we thought it would be systems because you're the systems guy.
No, it's culture.
Tell
It's
us about
absolute
that.
culture because, again, I've gone through multiple acquisitions and mergers, and I mean we've seen some of them on the news over the years, right? But I can tell you for a fact that if you don't have the right culture, if you're not communicating the right way, you're not going to innovate. You're not going to grow. I've been in situations where, certain acquisitions have occurred and they've actually been detrimental. They've not been an advantage, right? Where we've gone through others where they've been an advantage. We've got IP, we've got skills, we've got people, right? We've got technologies. Those have been great, but in other areas, they bought companies, but those companies have not added to the company. They've actually detracted from it. So I think it's culture, personally, because if you've got an organization that's got the right culture and driving forward and is part of innovation and looking at where we need to go and how we're going to get there. Look at Elon Musk. I mean, his culture of his company is innovation. Right?
And
They're
it's
growing
all of his businesses,
all of it.
anything he touches, and it can be disruptive when he comes into a business.
Yes.
Jose and I talk about this a lot. It can be very disruptive for a challenger to come into a business that's not used to that sort of environment.
Oh, it's absolutely turns it on its head, right? But again, it's understanding the direction, understanding where you're going, understanding what the leader's intent is. It's really, really, really important. And culture is about communication.
So that being said, what was the culture in HP to help you innovate or help you move in your position, your role you were in?
I mean, HP was built on innovation, right? HP was built, originally came out of an innovative company, right? Came out of Stanford, you know, the HP way. If you've not read the book, The HP Way,
I have not.
years and years ahead of itself. And they still live and breathe the HP way. There's some very great principles in there that people should look at. But it was built on innovation. Where do we go? How do we drive? It was built upon the people as well. So understanding the people, driving the people, right? Supporting the people in the company. And that's what grew HP. But again, you know, that was earlier on in the years, and it's still part of me, right?
You were there for a long time.
I was there for a long, long time.
You get to say we.
but it was driven by that culture, and that culture literally gets indented upon you, right? And that's why I still love working with the HP and the HP products, because I know the quality, right? It was built, everything that HP did was an engineering company. It was built on quality, right? And people around that, we knew what we were going to do and how we were going to deliver on it. That was our badge, was quality, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you got to remember, HP is also a combination of hundreds of other companies that have gone before.
That's what I was going to ask. Is like, did HP innovate by acquisition of a particular technology and then making their own twist to it? Or they just bought the technology, implemented it, and then kind of like merged it into their lineup?
Or did they acquire teams? Like what you said, they
Yes and
acquired
yes.
technology and teams.
Yes, the answer is yes to all of those, right? So they went out strategically, they go out and buy companies for technology. IP, right? And how can they use that IP to build on their company, right? Yes, you get people as you bring those people in. So who are the people that you're adding to the business? And this is what I do on a smaller scale today, which is, as you're starting to acquire, one of the quickest way to build businesses and grow is through acquisition, right? But you've got to be very careful on what you're buying. Are you buying the right culture? Who are you bringing into the team? Who are you bringing into the organization? Because if you bring the wrong people, the wrong culture, you're going to tank that business very, very quickly, right? Or you're going to spend an enormous amount of time building that new culture, having those conversations. So culture is a really, really, really important thing when you're looking not only at building the business, but acquiring businesses and integrating businesses. So you've got to have that right, as well as then how do you innovate, right? And people think of innovation around product, but it's not. It's people as well. How do you innovate people? How do you innovate solutions? How do you innovate products? How do you innovate, your clients?
It's like also motivation to a certain degree.
Yes.
Yeah, because if you think about Elon Musk, like he's innovating, like for example, say SpaceX, right? But I say the one thing he's really innovating is the recruitment style of engineers, and then giving them the freedom to kind of challenge and then kind of make a better product. And then they're not scared of failure, because like they launch a rocket and explode, they're expecting it to explode, and they're learning from the failure. Versus other companies like Blue Origin, they don't want to fail. They want to calculate everything on paper before they even do the experiment.
Yeah. I mean, he takes huge risks.
And a lot of money.
And he bikes it. And yeah, I mean, his famous quotes are, yeah, it blew up, but what did we learn from that is more valuable than what we didn't learn, right? So they're learning on iterative, right? They're learning through mistakes quickly.
It just clicked. You're right. It's a culture of freedom to challenge the existing standards and push them.
Yes. And then they go through the process, right? So they look at processes and then reduce processes, right? So he wants to reduce stuff out, right? But if then the product fails, well, did we take too much out?
Like in Tesla, when he said like we implemented all these robots, and then we found out like, hey, this is just hindering the automation process, so he had to bring back the human element to it.
Correct. So again, he's built this culture where it's okay to fail. And I think that's one of the challenges for a lot of businesses out there. It's not okay to fail. They see failure as a failure. It's not. Failure is a learning.
I would say, but the business has to have a runway. It has to have enough capital to be able to fail. I think they need to plan for failure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Makes sense.
And you made a good point, right? So if you're If you don't have the room to fail, then you're going to be very conservative, right? But if you want to learn quickly, learn to fail, right? And put that budget in to learn to fail.
Yeah. So if they're very conservative, I'm assuming that hinders growth and innovation.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, I think what I'm taking out of this conversation right now is like the planning procedure, like planning before action has to be the most critical part, and make sure
Right.
that you're accounting for whatever course you
Right.
take.
Yes. Plan again, but you cannot plan for everything. So in project management, there's planning, there's plan for the knowns, plan for the unknowns, and plan for the unknown unknowns.
I like that.
Right? So in project management, as you sit down and you build your plans out, there's a thing called critical path that you've got to get you to your outcome. But there's certain things then you build in what are the known unknowns. So you're going to do something, but there's something you don't know, so you got to plan for that.
Mm-hmm.
When you're doing large projects, you got to plan for the unknown unknowns, right? Stuff that you're just going to discover when you get to that point.
Like when you do a housing renovation project, you need to have a fund that's just for stuff is going to go wrong, and I don't know what it is, but
Yes.
I know that it's going to take me off budget, right?
Every time
20 to 30% additional budget to any building project.
Yep.
You
And I
take-
feel like that works the same in business when you're doing big stuff. When you
Yeah.
guys were talking about Elon Musk, I thought of someone. So Elon gets a lot of, FaceTime, but sometimes because his businesses are so big, it can be hard to translate. How does that work for my business, right? Something that we love, Jose, Diary of a CEO,
Yes.
Stephen Bartlett.
Yes.
So he is a great example of a smaller scale Elon Musk and how he has transformed a podcast into a really successful business. And I listened to one of the most, I could be wrong, but I think it was Simon Sinek interviewing Stephen Bartlett. And something that Stephen Bartlett said, because I think these are great concepts to talk about, but as business owners can be so much harder to actually follow through, is that throughout that planning stage, you're investing money, you're planning, you're building, and then you also have to be willing to pivot and adapt really quickly if something changes. And
Yes.
so what Stephen Bartlett, they had built out for a year. His whole team, everyone was involved. They were going to turn the podcast into a podcast network. They had an investor that was going to come in. They were going to have different hosts and have different shows. And he was all in. This was his dream. He was going for it. And at the very last minute, like a week before they officially accepted the investor money, he had a conversation with his team and he wanted to see where people were at. And they weren't excited. And then he said, he sat people down. He said, no. I want to know not all the reasons this could go right, but I want to know all the reasons this could go wrong.
Right.
And the answers he got back, because he had fostered a culture of honesty, were not great. And even though he was so close and had spent so much time and was about to launch this thing, he pivoted at the last moment. He said, we probably lost $100,000 of our, time, money, everything throughout this whole process, but it was worth it to make the right choice.
So what did he gain from that, right? So yes, there's an investment, but if you take that investment and you go that path, is the bigger return on a different path than that path.
And that's what he decided. They basically figured out by narrowing down and staying with Diary of a CEO and focusing in and going vertically rather than horizontally and expanding.
Right.
They felt like they could be more successful. And he said, we doubled our growth.
And it doesn't stop him from going down that path later on, right? But it's understanding where you are at that present moment in time, what's the right step to move forward, and having that view, right? Having that honesty. And again, that goes back to culture, right? So if you've got the right culture in your organization, and he had that honesty within the organization, that people could freely stand up and speak their mind, and he would listen, right? Which is a great trait for a CEO, by the way, to listen. But understanding that and then taking that on board and then taking action on that, that's a fantastic culture to have.
Is there a guideline for a small business owner, medium-sized, or any business owner in that point to divert some funds for research and development and innovation?
So when people ask me about R&D, right? So it's people talk about R&D in the larger companies. We got R&D budget to do this and millions of dollars to do that and that. What is R&D?
Research, development, and innovation.
But what is it?
Putting money back into the business so that it grows. I mean, because
kind of.
we're setting aside money for specifically innovation.
But truly, what is R&D? What is the purpose of R&D?
To take the existing product and make it better and make money.
Or
off it.
make a new product.
I would actually go an even further step. It's about buying new customers.
Ooh.
Mm.
So what is a customer worth? So if you're going to invest money into R&D, if you're going to invest money, I actually argue marketing is R&D for a company. So if you look at a balance sheet, if you look at a P&L, marketing on a P&L is what? It's a cost. What happened if it was an R&D? It's an investment. Because what you guys are doing, right, is buying new customers for companies.
We're also doing testing.
It's also doing testing, but what does that testing do?
It determines if the product is viable for market, if the people like it, and this is if we can actually acquire more clients to actually purchase that.
Acquire more clients. So it's about acquiring clients. R&D is about acquiring clients. At the essence of R&D, it's your future of your business, right? So R&D is you're going to spend money on your products or services or people to get you new customers or to keep customers.
That makes sense.
Right?
Moving forward, everybody listening to the podcast, marketing is not marketing. Marketing is
It's
R&D.
research and development.
Marketing is research and development. Because honestly, one of the things that happens in a downturn market, people start cutting, non-ops costs.
Oh, yeah.
One of the first things, honestly, that goes out is marketing. I've seen it across the board, right?
Mm-hmm.
But here's the research is, if you invest more in a downturn market in marketing, guess what? You're going to go steal your competitors' customers.
That's exactly how Jose and I started working together.
Right.
We did?
Point blank. It was it was COVID, had just started to ease up.
Right.
And all these service-based businesses like barbershops, people were not going back yet.
Right.
And everyone had cut their marketing budgets.
Mhm.
No one was spending money on getting people in the door. And Jose, crazy as he is, love it.
A lot of money.
He said, I want to spend more money than I've ever spent before. I want to do digital ads. I've never
Yeah.
done that before. And we started working together, and your business doubled within a year.
More.
Yeah.
And businesses that spend money in a down market come out, I think it's about 30% stronger than your competition
That doesn't
when the market
surprise me.
turns. So again, I go back to, is R&D a cost or an investment? It's an investment, and it should be put in the R&D bucket, because the R&D is about getting you new customers.
Mm-hmm.
It's about keeping long-term customers.
I will also add something to that. It's not just about acquiring new customers. It's how do you get your customer base to spend more money too?
More money.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of our steps, right? Is getting more customers and getting more share of wallet, right? On a more regular basis. But that's where you look at R&D and you're spending money in that space. Why are you spending money in? Right.
Okay, maybe it's the hunger, but my brain is like connecting a dot. I want to make sure I'm connecting the right dot.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, that is innovation.
Yes.
Say less.
It is innovation. Right. It is. But again, R&D could also be growing your team. Right. So getting new skills, getting new capabilities, that's an investment.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Hiring new people to do different things, that's an investment.
I like it.
So investment is a lot of things. It's about being intentional where you spend your money.
We need to take this podcast on the road, and we have to share this with people.
I know. We could do live performances.
Sure, why not?
Like,
Why
Sell
not?
out an auditorium. Okay,
the-
final. Well, I just want to ask one really big takeaway.
Yeah.
Because you had 25 years at HP, and your last couple were head of transformation.
Mhm.
Is there a single biggest lesson you feel like you learned from your time at HP, or specifically as the head of transformation?
It's not a single one. There's many. The ability to influence. As a leader, as a business owner, your ability to influence is one of the biggest assets you have. Think of business owners as telling a story. You've got to be able to tell the story, not only internally, but externally. You've got to be able to inspire. I mean, Simon Sinek talks about it, right? You've got to be able to inspire others. Transformation, what we were doing is we were trying to make people do something they don't want to do. Change. So you've got to, as a leader, help people change, help people grow, help your customers change and grow and develop. So the biggest thing I learned was communication and enable people to change and move forward.
So that's perfect. We should end on
I agree. Why add on when it's perfect as it is? Thank you so much for joining us for these conversations. I think they're going to provide a lot of value to our audience.
Awesome. Thank you very much indeed. Appreciate you.
All right, you know how to subscribe, like, share, and we'll see you next time.